Hey YouTube, Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Dragon Tree deck profile featuring Dark States for post-flight of Chakrabarthi. Wanted to do my take on the Dark States version of the Cardfight Vanguard Dragon Tree Griphogila deck. Already have done the deck profile on Dragon Empire, so I figured next in line we'll do Dark States, and then just go right down the line with Keter Sanctuary, Brantgate, and then Stoicheia for all the different variants of this deck. Ever since we got the more support for the deck, it's been more generic support, which means we use less of the lineup for the Dark States cards, but still we make full use of what's available to us for the deck. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the ride deck still consists of Griffo Sid, the unit that gets +2 for each Calamity card with a different name in your soul. And then once you set up a different Calamity order in your soul, you can remove all three to then ride a Griphogila grade 10 from your deck on your Vanguard circle, and then gain 2 Dragon Tree markers as well after that setup. Along with the starter, we have the 3 copies of the Calamity orders for our ride deck as well. The Start of the End, Tenacious Metamorphosis, and Looming Demise, with our overtrigger for the Dark States version of the deck being Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment, Gamalgaheld. Having the additional critical power, I'd say it's one of the weaker lineups. You still have the restand power, but the permanent effect of each turn your Vanguard gets the +10 in critical being used this late in the game is definitely the most underwhelming, I would say, of the over-trigger abilities, but still being the trigger that we wanted to make use of in the deck. There's other benefits. I thought of maybe the Cray Elemental over-triggers, but still those ones still rely on more of a recovery play and not so much an overall pressure play for your Vanguard. For the main deck, we're starting off with our grade 11, which is Supreme Dragon Tree of Annihilation, Griphogila Vartex. When it's placed on by riding, you put a Griffo Escatology token into your order zone. During your turn, it gets +10,000 in extra critical, and on the Vanguard, if the total number of Hydreigon and Dragon Tree markers on your rear guard is 10 or more, this unit gets +10,000, which is a continuous +10, so being at an 18k base and 10,000 power means your opponent has to take out some of your rear guard options before they can hope to hit your Vanguard. And also, with the once per turn, when it attacks a Vanguard, choose a face-up Calamity card from your ride deck, remove it. If you do not remove a card, choose a trigger unit from your ride deck, reveal it, and activate all of the trigger effects and additional effects, and stand all your rear guards with Dragon Tree markers, having the same ability as Griphogila, with the added bonus of using the Griffo order token as the setup for an additional way to set up less Calamity cards in your ride deck for you to use. Along with the 4 of the grade 11, we also run the 4 copies of Dragon Tree of Ecliptic Decimation, Griphogila. During your turn, it gets +5 for each Dragon Tree marker on your rear guard. If you have 3 or more, it gets critical +1. And when it attacks, having the same option to remove the Calamity card from your ride deck. And when there is no more, being able to activate the overtrigger that is in your ride deck, and then stand all your rear guards with the Dragon Tree marker. So you want to get to the grade 11 as quickly as you can, just to have more of a pressured attack against your opponent and a permanent 18k base to use more defensively also. For the actual Dark State units that we run, I have 4 copies of Generous Evil Swordsman, Zalios. Now, this could be Skull Kemda, if you wish. I didn't have any copies of Skull Kemda, but it's more of a searcher for the Mask of Hydreigon. So you can run 4 copies of that card instead, with Generous Evil Swordsman, Zalios. If it's on a rear guard with a Dragon Tree marker, it gets the Intercept ability as well, or when it intercepts, it gets +5,000 to end of battle, and also has +5,000 on the rear guard, being a 15k attacker, so a pretty good rear guard to attack into your opponent with as well. For the other grade 2s, we run 2 copies of Brawlfield Hydra. Now, this one, when placed on rear from hand, if you have 3 or more Dragon Tree markers on your rear guard, soul +1, choose a grade 3 or less card from your soul, and call it to rear guard. More setup for the rear guard placement as well, using this card, and the soul that we can build up with our rides from the Vanguard, or some of the other cards we run in the deck as well, for the soul power. So 2 copies of this, and for the grade 1s, 4 copies of Dragon Tree Wretch Demon Shredder. When placed on rear guard, counter+1, choose one of your rear guards without any Dragon Tree markers and put a Dragon Tree marker on it. And on the rear guard, once per turn, if your Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, you can Soul Blast 2, choose a grade 1 or less card from your soul, call it to rear guard in the same column as this unit. So more setup for your different cards on the rear guard as well, for the added power of being able to set up more columns on the Dragon Tree markers for more pressured attacks against your opponent as well. With the other grade 1 just being the Sentinel spot. So 4 copies of Repelled Malice Dragon for the Sentinel of choice, having less of the discard option if need be, if you only have one other card in your hand, to save that spot, also potentially for another Sentinel to guard against your opponent. And for the orders, we do run a good number of orders in the deck. We run the 4 copies of Corrosive Smoke Signals. You play this if you have a Hydrogram Vanguard. Choose one of your rear guards without any Dragon Tree markers. Put a Dragon Tree marker on it. Choose one of your units being attacked. It gets plus 10,000 to end the battle. If you have a Vanguard with Griphogila and its card name, it gets plus 20 instead of plus 10. So just another potential one of guard, since you'll be at an 18k base or a 13k base. You can be a 33 or 38k guard against an opponent's attack, which can most of the time block the specific attack you may be trying to stop against your opponent with this one single card. And then also the 2 copies of Mask of Hydrogram for the added search power of being able to grab the specific cards with Dragon Tree and their name in the deck, whether it be Griphogila Vartex, the original Griphogila. You have plenty of search thanks to this order. And once again, what I recommend, if you have the Skull Chemdas, to take out the Zalios for that spot, and for the fact that the Skull Chemdas also have Hydrogram in the name, so it works a little better with the setup on your rear guards for all the different units with Hydrogram. And then the last of the orders, 2 copies of Pandemonium Tactics. With a counter+1, you just soul charge 4, so it can help to set up the soul with some other cards in the deck to be able to call out, like Demon Shredder, for the added rearguard placement. And then for the trigger lineup, we're running the 7 critical for the added pressure for the Vanguard. So the 3 Lively Breath Dragon and the 4 Swanky Enthraller. If you wanted to run the critical with the Put in the Soul ability, you can always just take out the Swanky Enthrallers for that spot. And also the 4 draw triggers, the Ruse Wildmaster Riley for the additional 5k shield as well, if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater. And then lastly, the heal trigger spot, just the 4 copies of Gambling Juggler for the initial 15k shield that you can utilize with this card against your opponent for that added play. And once again, just the reminder, you have the trigger setup with Griffo Escatoligui to place additional trigger units face up in your order zone. So if you have your Vanguard use the over trigger ability already, if you've placed a trigger with your order, you'll be able to activate that one the following turn, since it's the only other face-up card in your order zone. So a fun little tactic to remember with this deck as well. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Qualia out.